All right, so for our NASA agency update, we have the great pleasure of having Joe Westlake here with us, who is the Heliophysics Division Director. So thank you, Joe.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I am filling in for Patrick Kane today. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I want to give you guys a quick update on the work that we're doing at NASA Heliophysics, but I also want to give you all an opportunity to ask questions and give us feedback. I'll note that there's going to be an agency office hour along with our other agencies at noon today. Patrick and Teresa, who are here from headquarters, will be there. So maybe raise your hands. Yeah, so familiar faces. If you have questions that you don't want to ask in front of the whole crowd and you have, good questions for our folks, they will happily answer your questions. I do also want to sincerely thank my colleagues at the NSF for putting on such a wonderful meeting, such a wonderful workshop. It is amazing to see this many students, postdocs, early career researchers in the field here together sharing ideas. And I think this is just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity and wonderful meeting. So huge kudos to the organizers, to the NSF, and a huge thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk with you all today. So let's see. So I've been on the job for 6 months at this point. In NASA's Heliophysics Division leadership. So I've stepped in as Division Director. Peg Luce, who has been of service to the NASA Heliophysics Division for quite some time now, has happily stepped into the deputy role. And the next time that you all see Peg around, please stop and say thank you. Her service to heliophysics and the Heliophysics Division has been really just a massive contribution to our efforts over the years, and she has happily stepped in as acting division director twice now, a role that is of massive challenge when you're acting. So when you see her, please stop and say thank you. She is a treasure to our division. Nikki Rail, of course, also a treasure, but in a different way, is working on as our associate director for flight. So many of you guys who are working on flight programs or other things interact directly with her. And I'd like to thank Teresa Moretto Jorgensen, who has joined us again. She was here as the deputy division director in the time that the search was going on. She has come back to be our director of research. So many of your questions related to the RNA program, to our ROSES program, to other grants and things should go straight to her and to Patrick as well, who Patrick has happily been serving as the RNA lead within NASA Heliophysics for a few years now, and has really done an amazing job of progressing our program forward. So a huge thank you to my division leadership. Give you guys a quick update on the Heliophysics Big Year. The Heliophysics Big Year, of course, started with our practice run of the eclipse, with the annular eclipse. I mean, the annular eclipse was really cool in its own right, but we all sort of felt like it was a practice run. Going into the total solar eclipse in April of this year, and then moving into what's going to be a really amazing event with Parker Solar Probe's closest approach to the sun at the end of this year, December 24th, in which, it will happen. And then we'll hear more about it after, when it comes around from the other side of the sun and gives us some information about where it's at. So really excited about this big year. The big year, of course, comes from the idea of that came in birding, where if you establish things like a big year, you get as many people as possible across the US to look at, to observe, to be a part of the science that you're working on. In heliophysics, there are so many opportunities, and we've had added opportunities with the solar storms, with the things that are going on in geospace in this year, to actually show off why it is that heliophysics is so important. I want to show off this amazing picture from Keegan Barber of the solar eclipse, showing just some really wonderful activity off of the surface of the sun, and really showing some amazing things in the atmosphere. There's lots of these different things, and one of the wonderful things that I got to see during the eclipse was to be able to actually look through a telescope and see this kind of activity. Thousands of people in the Dallas Cotton Bowl with me, done by the Punch group, and many others working in science with us, were able to actually show physically with your bare eye, or with your eye with a telescope, some really amazing sights. So that's a wonderful share. In the total solar eclipse, we had a massive impact across NASA, but also across science. 400 plus NASA employees went to 14 locations, sunspots across the globe. You can see here our folks at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 2 million plus solar glasses were distributed, making a safe event for all. We had over 12 million viewers of the NASA Eclipse broadcast and over 4.6 million viewers of our Spanish language broadcast. Tens of thousands of engagements across social media and lots of engagements with some really fascinating characters like Barbie, Cookie Monster, Elmo, Snoopy, Lego, Spotify, various other things. Really, really enjoyed the interaction that happened on social media that day. 17,000 plus news stories and really just a massive impact across NASA. And I hope you all were able to share with your neighbors and colleagues the joy of heliophysics in this activity. Also, we've had some spectacular storms. So this previous geomagnetic storm, of which folks are naming the Gannon storm in memory of Jen Gannon, really displayed an amazing view of auroral displays, of which I know many in this community are very interested in and thinking about and considering. I hope you all had the opportunity to see these. I would like to share that we unfortunately did not in the DC area. And so all the folks, all the policymakers and other folks that you might want to influence by this were clouded out. So it's a little unfortunate, but across the country, I think this was just an amazing display, seeing aurora down to Florida, down everywhere. And I hope over the years to come that this becomes a legacy that we're able to analyze, understand, and really treasure for the upcoming years. And yeah, here's a video of some of those CMEs being launched from Soho Lasco. Our heliophysics big year keeps getting bigger. So with the transition into the solar maximum and the considerations of the work that you all are doing and understanding solar maximum's effect on the geospace environment, you know, there's lots of citizen science opportunities that are coming up, and I would like to encourage you all to get involved in that regard. Our decadal survey is coming soon. We have all patiently awaited this decadal survey. I would like to put a huge thank you out to the community for their efforts in doing this. I know this was a huge lift and consumed many people's lives over the past, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years. I am very much looking forward to this decadal survey. I do, however, want to voice that it takes time for NASA, NSF, NOAA, and other folks to respond to a decadal survey. The day the decadal survey hits my desk is not the day that a new, you know, shiny thing is funded. It takes time for us to consume, to understand. And let me tell you guys a little bit about how that rollout is going to work on the other end. You know, we take some time to understand what's within the decadal survey. NASA provides a written response to the decadal survey, in which I'm sure that we look carefully at all the things within it. We consider ways that we'll be able to implement various parts of the decadal survey. There are lots of things that sort of sit in this transition time in between decadal surveys. I will note that because, you know, budgets and other cycles happen long before, that our priorities remain the same and that we slowly shift over into what is the new decadal. So again, I would encourage you all to take the opportunity to enjoy and love the new things that are coming into heliophysics, but also don't forget the things that we're currently doing and the progress that we've made. Really the amazing progress that we've made over the last decade in the last decadal survey. Speaking of progress, our heliophysics fleet chart is quite full, which is fantastic. To read this, you can see our green missions that are in green, our missions that are in prime operations, Solar Orbiter, Parker Solar Probe, and AWE on the International Space Station. The missions that are in blue are in extended operations, and the missions that are in yellow are in development. You can see there's a multitude of missions that are coming up, and we'll talk about the launches that are coming up soon. Some really exciting things coming up as our mission to Mars with Escapade, you know, reaching out into the farthest reaches of the solar system with Voyager, of course, MMS and Themis, which are of great care for this community, are still alive and kicking and doing really well. Really excited about the work that's going on there. And then, you know, just continued observations throughout the Sun to Earth system. If we look at the things that are going to launch in the next year and a half, we have a busy timeline in front of us. So Escapade is launching in October of this year. Easy also October of this year. Sunrise March of next year. Tracers April of next year. Punch along with SphereX April 2025. And then IMAP and Carruthers Geochronal Observatory are launching along with the NOAA SWIFO mission in May of 2025. So really excited about all of the new science that's going to come down from our various missions. And I hope you all have the opportunity to get involved with a lot of this new science that's coming out. Give you guys a couple of mission highlights. So here's a couple of wonderful photos from Rocket Lab of our Escapade instrumentation and spacecraft as they were coming together. The blue spacecraft on the left going through Vibe and Shock, and gold on the right that's going through closeout. And you can see the Langmuir probe and the planar Langmuir probe, as well as the ESA sitting on top of that. So very excited about this mission. It is a low-cost mission of opportunity in which we are doing Mars on the cheap, and it's really amazing. Really, really excited to see. And fingers crossed all goes well. I'm sure it will. Go Escapade. Tracers, our colleagues at Iowa are making immense progress on tracers, and at many other institutions as well. Iowa, of course, is leading the tracers mission. Tracers is 2 spacecraft that are looking at field line connection across our magnetosphere. And really excited to see this mission go forward and move forward also in the memory of Craig Kletzing and other folks in the community. So really, this has been a wonderful mission as it progresses. The AW mission has started to return data. So you can see some of the first light data from the International Space Station, in which we're looking at gravity waves or buoyancy waves at the interface between Earth and space, roughly 87 kilometers. This is a wonderful mission in which we have used the International Space Station as an amazing viewing platform. Just, such a resource and such an asset for us in this case. Easy, and you can see some of the easy instruments towards the bottom right. So easy, of course, is using the Zeeman effect, of which you guys probably played with in undergraduate physics or other things, to look at field line splitting in a magnetic field. So 3 6U CubeSats that are looking at the Aurora electrojets. Really excited to see this mission and to see some of the 3D observations of the magnetic field. Really excited by this. I would also to encourage you to share your science with us at NASA headquarters. We have many opportunities to share the great work that you all are doing, both within NASA, but also outside of NASA. And we like to be able to show the importance of NASA heliophysics. And we do this through the science storytelling. It's a very simple process. I've put an email in here, hqheliohighlights@mail.nasa.gov. If you have something like a nugget that looks like this, a simple image from a wonderful paper. This is from a Nature paper on solar moss, and a QR code that leads to the paper, and a brief description of why it matters. That allows us to develop science storytelling, and we'll work with you to try and pull together some good visualizations and other things. But this gives us an initial look and allows us really to put forward the amazing science that we are doing within NASA, and allows us to show to those that are funding us, to those that are responsible for heliophysics, the amazing work that you all are doing. So please help me, help you, or help me help the community create the joy and happiness that comes around with new scientific results. I'll give you guys a couple of programmatic updates. So our ROSES 2023 selections across here. So HSR 2023, HGIO, HFOS, HTIDES, and LWS. One of the things that we have seen in the last year to 2 years has been a massive increase in proposal pressure. So we have seen a lot of proposals coming in all of our programs. As many of you guys who have seen me at dinner or around at breakfast and other things, I've been asking the question of why. I would love to understand this much better, and I've gotten lots of different opinions and thoughts, and I appreciate you all for sharing candidly with me. I would encourage you to do that with Trace and Patrick as well. Reasons why a lot of these proposals are going in, so we can understand and respond to it from the NASA side. Of course, with increased proposal pressure also comes increased need for reviewers. you cannot do better to understand a proposal process than to serve on the review panel. Chawa put it like the best possible way. The serving on a panel is your best way to understand this and understand how things work. Please volunteer. Please raise your hand to serve the community in that regard. We also have stood up our Heliophysics Strategic Technology Office. Here you can see some of that impact across the U.S. This HESTO office supports a lot of our technology efforts and technology engagements. I will note that there is a website out there, hesto.smce.nasa.gov. Please go out and check out the efforts that are going on there. That also has a link to the various reports that are coming out, and you can see some of the work that's going on. I would also encourage folks to join us at the 2024 Heliophysics Technology Symposium held out in September at the Wallops Flight Facility. Please come and join us and speak with other technologists, scientists, researchers, folks who are interested in instrumentation. But also I would encourage this community that has many of our modelers, as well as the folks who are really using the data, to come and interact with the technologists and try to infuse your needs into the technology needs that we have, to try and help develop strong instrumentation and other proposals, instrumentation, and other research going forward. Our NASA Sounding Rockets program has had a really wonderful effect over the last couple of years. We had 11 missions launched in fiscal 23, 2 Norway campaigns. In 24, we had 21 missions launched, including our multitude of solar eclipse programs, as well as the solar flare campaign from Poker Flat. I was talking to many students from Alaska that were talking about the research range. Really enjoy that. And then in fiscal 25, we have 15 missions total on the manifest, 4 campaign deployments that we're looking at: Norway, Poker, and Kwajalein. And we are looking at doing some Peruvian site improvements as well in preparation for hopefully an upcoming Peru campaign. The launch dates from the Sounding Rocket program. So a multitude of launches coming up, a few that have already happened. So Herschel and Rock On happened in June, or have just happened. Magix 2 and FIRST coming up in July and August. So really excited to see this program as it continues to really, provide immense connection between the upper atmosphere and the magnetospheric communities. I hope that you all will take the opportunity to potentially engage in this. I know it's not necessarily of prime interest to this community, but I would be interested in what could be done in the magnetospheric world from a sounding rocket. We are also looking at new program approaches on the NASA Space Weather Program. So the research to operations to research solicitation is developing a process in which we will have ideas labs. This is a sort of NSF process in which we bring folks together from different walks of life and try to develop ideas together, as opposed to what we've done in the past, which has been just an open call and have researchers go out and do the work individually. So look forward to some of these calls as they go forward. And this is sort of meeting our responsibilities within the Pro-SWIFT Act, but also to address some of the issues that we've had in actually transitioning research to operations, and working collaboratively with our NOAA colleagues to serve the nation in that regard. I'll give you guys a quick heliophysics budget update. So our budget priorities within fiscal year 25 is to maintain a balanced mission portfolio, ensuring the success of missions that are currently in development, of which we have many, stewarding the operating heliophysics system observatory, and enabling future missions to the extent possible. We nurture a vibrant and inclusive RNA program, and we're supporting many partnerships with our international space agencies and continuing to be a good partner in that regard. We support our national priorities in space weather, orbital debris, and space situational awareness. When we talk about the balanced mission portfolio of things in development, I show there on the right our IMAP mission as it's progressing towards launch. It's a little fuller than that these days, so I suggest you guys go out into the web and watch the IMAP mission as it comes together. And they have a live view into their high bay as that mission has come together. I think Matina's here. You can go chat with her about it. Matina Gulidu. There you go. We advance Escapade, Easy, Sunrise, Tracers, Punch, Carruthers, and IMAP towards launch in the 2024 to 2025 timeframe. We're supporting this healthy cadence of PI-led Explorer missions. So Muse and Helioswarm for confirmations in 24 and 25. Our final SMEX selections are planned in 2025. And then we're planning still our future Explorer solicitations in fiscal 25 for a MidX and 28 for a SMEX. The challenge here, which I'll talk about more in a second, is that this president's budget, the fiscal year 25 president's budget, proposes cancellation of GDC rather than the 3-year pause in recognition of the out-year budgetary constraints. Let's talk about GDC and dynamic. So I will give you the challenging situation with which we are in and give you guys an opportunity to ask questions or gain understanding in this realm. So the fiscal year 24 appropriations happened, and they gave us some instructions to come back with a report that tells what's required to do GDC by the end of the decade. We are working on that report. That guidance came out basically the same week as the fiscal year 25 president's budget. Unfortunate timing of which we at NASA have no control over, but is sort of a pick me up and let me down for that team at the same time. I would encourage you guys, if you have colleagues who are on the GDC team, to talk to them, say hi, and voice support for the hard times that they are currently going through. I will note that many missions have been canceled in president's budgets before and have been launched from this earth, including things like PACE that was launched earlier this year. So things are not over yet. They just look a little bleak. In GDC, you know, we are delivering this report back, and we believe that there is still priority within the heliophysics program for the GDC mission. And to further support that, we made selections within the dynamic program. So dynamic and GDC together create really the next amazing joint mission, joint strategic mission within heliophysics to look at the atmosphere up and the atmosphere down. So GDC, of course, is looking at that transition from well mixed up into the upper atmosphere, and dynamic is looking from above down. The AO was released in May of 23. We just made selections in June of 24 into phase A of 3 missions, 3 mission concepts moving forward. So that's the story with GDC and dynamic. Of course, they have a bit of a rocky road in front of them, both programs. And again, remember that these are people within our community that have spent a lot of time and effort. So take time and voice some support for your colleagues as they move forward. And I hope to actually discover and understand some of the connections that the magnetosphere community has with GDC and dynamic. And I hope to understand the science that's going on within the boundaries and within a lot of these areas that do not necessarily define singular communities. This is a difficult message to end on, so I'll give it a little bit of a positive shine and say it's a great time to be a heliophysicist. That's a rough transition. I am so sorry. However, I am a constant optimist, and I hope you all will join me in also being optimists. I do believe that within our heliophysics budget, we support many, many amazing, wonderful things, and we will continue to do so moving forward. And while we may weather some challenging times, I would encourage you all within the community to take some time and help create community by supporting your fellow scientists, supporting your fellow researchers, and spending some time and thanking people and understanding the science that might not necessarily be directly within your purview, but being a part of the broader heliophysics community. That's why I think it's a great time to be a heliophysicist, and it's still a little bit of a rough transition. But yeah, thank you all so much. And I would encourage you to get involved and stay informed. Please use our Helio highlights to share some your news and updates with us, but also follow along on the socials, on the web, on other places. And thank you guys so much for taking the time to listen.
Hi, thanks for that. So I have a question for you about how we can help with GDC. GDC is very important to the magnetosphere community, just as it is to the ionospheric and atmospheric communities as well. And it has been hard to sometimes find information that would be beneficial to use when talking to others about it. So I know in the ITM lab, we've put up the 2-pager on our website that's available to anyone to download. But are there other places to find resources? And what activities can people do to help advocate for that? Because I know the Congress is talking about the budget right now. And next year, they're going to be starting with those budget talks as well. So how can we as a community really help GDC and help talk about and shine a light on the importance of this kind of research? Because we just had a big year about the sun, but we really need to have a big emphasis on the importance of magnetosphere ionosphere coupling and interactions.
Yeah, so great question. Thank you so much. When you think about how we as individuals can support the work that heliophysics is doing going forward, one of the best ways to do so is to voice the positive benefits that come out of heliophysics as a whole. When we talk about heliophysics, it is not necessarily helpful for us to say, you know, my thing that I am interested in is the most important possible thing within heliophysics at the cost of all the other things within heliophysics. It is more important to share a message that is the importance of the research that we are doing across heliophysics. And so, you know, the joy in the work that is going on within magnetospheric physics, that's going on within ITM, going on within our solar communities, that is the broad portfolio of the work that we are doing. And it allows for, you know, folks who are interested to positively benefit heliophysics in that way. So again, sharing a message that is positive, that is joint, that is across heliophysics, this is the importance of the work that we are doing, is helpful.
So, yeah, so when you asked about why there was a sudden increase in the RNA proposals, my naive guess is that the recent senior review where most missions were forced into infrastructure mode. And once you're in that mode, you can't support scientists anymore and have directed science or anything like that type of funding. So each individual that no longer has funding from a mission now has to write 4 or 5 proposals per year. I'm pretty sure that's why there's the uptick, and it's going to keep going up because more missions are getting pushed into this. And then the recent PPBE, a lot of the missions had cuts to their budgets. So that's my naive guess, but
yeah, Lynn, thank you so much for that feedback. The numbers don't match. We looked into that, and that was a possible, you know, piece of the puzzle. There are a few folks that are additionally proposing because of the move for the Heliophysics System Observatory and other things. But it's just insufficient to map to the sheer number that we've gotten this year. Yeah, but I appreciate that. It's good feedback.
Yes. So thank you for the nice talk. And I have a question about the HGI and HSR. And you just introduced how many missions we're going to launch in 2024 and 2025. And then that means then a lot of data will be available for the scientists. That means we have to write a HGI and HSI proposals to study those.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a bit upset when we see the HSI proposal this year because the total funding that goes to the HSI reduced by 1 million. And that because that's really, really sad thing. And then, so I hope that whether you guys interested in expanding that the size of the budget for HGI or HSI for this upcoming mission. Otherwise, international community going to study, for example, China, they have a lot of resources and they can, these days they are publishing science papers and nature papers with our NASA science data, while we are struggling to get the proposal get funded so we can do that research. And then also, if you are funded by the NASA proposal, you are not allowed to work with the Chinese people bilaterally. So that also limits our science progress in United States. Thank you.
So a couple of comments there. We're restricted by what we can and can't do in law with the bilateral work with Chinese investigators. Our research funding has stayed very consistent over the years, including in HSR and other places. So I'm not quite sure where the $1 million reduction comes from, but either way, one of the key tenets of our budgetary process has been to maintain the research funding where it is. right? Whereas in challenging budgetary times, so fiscal year 25 is a very deep challenge for us. We have asked that to come out of the mission side instead of asking it to come out of the research side. And so we take it very seriously that we protect the research funding, and we protect that ability to provide research funding to our community. And that is the very last place that we are able to cut from. And in fact, year over year, we've been able to increase the research funding within that and not cut against that research base.
Yeah, hi.
So I would encourage you to take some time and chat with Teresa and Patrick, just to understand sort of your understanding of what's within the budget. But also I think it's more important though, for you to understand how the research, grant process, the ROSES process works. Yeah, appreciate that. It's good feedback. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for all your efforts. Here at GEM this time, we have a working group now on comparative planetary magnetospheric processes. And of course, this is an area that falls in the crack between heliophysics and planetary. I noticed you did have a statement on there, but you didn't really say anything about it. Could you expand on the possibilities of interdisciplinary research between these divisions?
Yeah, so Science Mission Directorate is always interested in interdisciplinary work that goes between our different divisions. In times of budgetary challenges, it can be a place where we circle the work that's core to our heliophysics goals and other things. I'll say that we have sort of pushed into some of that and allowed for, additional research on the edges, whether it be ESCAPADE or, thinking about Mars RAD and other things that have actually helped us to understand the heliosphere as a whole. So, we had some wonderful data from RAD that helped us to understand the radiation effects out at the moon, part of our space weather interests and other things. So that I think there's community interest, and we see that here at GEM. That's wonderful to see. In the planetary decadal, I found that the support for planetary magnetospheres was sort of, you have to read between the lines to try and find it. I am curious to see what comes out of our decadal. I know nothing, and we'll see what the community feels about that. And of course, we use that guidance to guide us moving forward. I hope that helps. And it's a challenge. As somebody who has worked immensely on planetary magnetospheres for years and years, and knowing what additional information that can provide to our understanding of the Earth's magnetosphere and vice versa. Actually, one of the things that I challenge folks that are in the planetary magnetospheres world is to come back and chat with the folks working in our own magnetosphere to understand some of the developments that have been made over the years. Sometimes that cross-pollination helps. But anyway, I think there's immense progress that could be made there. Yeah.
Hi, Joe, Michael Berger and Kara NSF. Thank you first so much for stepping up and taking on this position in a very challenging time and trying to help us navigate through that. And one, I want to acknowledge the fact that what you're working in is a challenging budget environment, and there are a variety of us, we'll talk later on from the Helio Coalition, are trying to help on the positive side to move that forward there. I'm just curious to know, for GDC, since it's from an area of our that has struggled to get a flagship mission for a long, long time and needs that information to feed back into the MI coupling process for us here and their own fundamental science. If you're interested in taking a playbook from what Nikki did with MSR and asking for a reimagining, a reinvestigation, a re-way to do it that may help us get after some of those things within a different kind of cost constraint.
Yeah, so that's an interesting idea. However, the feedback that we have gotten hasn't been that MSR is, or excuse me, not MSR, that GDC is over what's needed. GDC is a mission that we scoped without a ton of fat, right? I mean, if you look at the mission concept, if you look at the six satellites, bespoke satellites with bespoke science instrumentation in low Earth orbit to really solve the major questions that we have there, that is a small price to pay for what we're asking to do. If you compare that with what we've done across other missions, the bus costs, the instrument costs, the other costs, especially for a flagship class, is really within the realm of what you would expect. So re-evaluating how we would do that mission to some degree sets us back several years. In this case, I think it's better for us to push forward with a concept as we have it and really with support and funding to just hit the ground running. And we're prepared to do that. And I would, encourage folks again, like we have selected instruments, that takes time. We have selected concepts, we have selected lots of things, and it just takes an immense amount of time to move the bureaucracy in a positive direction in that realm. Yeah.
We are going to have to move on with, because of timing. We will have our agency speakers in the atrium during lunch. You can ask more questions. Although I wanted to just make one comment since I have the microphone, regarding trying to find, more reviewers.
Yes.
So this season HSR is in person. And so I was asked actually for like 3 different HSR panels. And I unfortunately had to decline because I'm still a nursing mother and it's just really hard for me to travel. And I imagine there's other reasons people find it hard to travel, just being a parent or a caregiver of your parents or something. And so maybe my slight naive suggestion is if NASA has more of the virtual panels again, which I have sat on and to me seemed pretty effective, maybe easier to find more people.
Yeah, so that's great feedback. We've heard both versions of that, which is, bring back the in-person panels, but also, do these hybrid virtual panels. We have found great success in the virtual panels, but there are things that we lose when we do only virtual panels. Some of the community building side of things to some degree is lost when you're only doing these things via Zoom and struggling with timelines and everything like that. There are things that I personally have found benefit from in being together. Now, having said that, the inclusion side of that, understanding that people have challenges with travel, getting out into the community, and we'd like to work with you in ways that we can improve that in our reviewing. And what we're basically doing going forward is some panels, especially these large ones, putting them together such that we have in-person gatherings because it makes sense. It's more efficient. We can get people together. But then on some of the other things, having these virtual panels. So we'll evaluate those results, how we felt about it, and come up with what we're going to do moving forward. So I appreciate that feedback. It's very good. And thank you guys for the time. And I'm sorry I went